also have a funny side, don't they? You see, those pumpkins in the cursed pumpkin patch have a mischievous sense of humor. They love to play tricks on unsuspecting visitors, and the giggles that echo through the night are enough to send shivers down your spine. But that's not all, my dear friends. Tonight, we embark on a terrifying journey into the heart of darkness, as we open the pages of the Book of Souls to reveal our spine-tingling tale. Haunted Pumpkin Patch Horror. Prepare yourselves for a story that will have you on the edge of your seat, where the line between reality and nightmare blurs, and every rustle of the leaves in the pumpkin patch becomes a harbinger of doom, as we delve into the story. Remember that Halloween is a time for thrills and chills, laughter and screams, so hold on to all your candy buckets, and may your courage be your guiding light as we venture into the depths of the unknown. So, without further ado, my dear boys and girls, let us gather around the flickering candlelight, embrace the eerie atmosphere, and immerse ourselves in the macabre mysteries of the night. Welcome to a world where pumpkins come to life, where the darkness conceals secrets untold, and where your wildest nightmares may just become a horrifying reality. Are you ready for the Haunted Pumpkin Patch Horror? Let the tale begin.
The wind howled through the desolate fields on the outskirts of the small town of Hollowbrook. Halloween night was fast approaching, and the townspeople knew better than to venture near the old, abandoned pumpkin patch. For generations, the place had been a source of fear and dread, a haunted ground they whispered about in hushed tones. Nestled at the edge of town, the pumpkin patch had once been a thriving farm, providing the freshest pumpkins for miles around. Families from all over would visit the patch, searching for the perfect pumpkin to carve into a jack-o'-lantern for Halloween. But that was long ago, before the tragedy. Now, the patch was a place of darkness and foreboding. It had been abandoned after the gruesome murder of the farmer's family that lived there. The townsfolk believed that their restless spirits still lingered among the gnarled vines and rotting pumpkins, waiting for unsuspecting souls to cross their path. As Halloween drew near, a group of teenagers decided to test their bravery by visiting the patch. Among them was Sarah, a fearless girl with fiery red hair and a penchant for adventure. She had heard the stories about the haunted pumpkin patch, but was determined to prove to her friends that it was all nonsense. On the evening of Halloween, Sarah and her friends gathered near the entrance to the pumpkin patch. The moon hung low in the sky, casting eerie shadows across the fields. The air was thick with anticipation as they pushed through the rusty gate and entered the overgrown path. The path was choked with twisted vines and thorny brambles, making their journey treacherous. The wind whispered through the dried corn stalks, creating an unsettling symphony of rustling leaves. As they walked deeper into the patch, the air grew colder, and the atmosphere grew more oppressive. They soon reached the heart of the patch, where the once ripe pumpkins had withered and decayed. The ground was littered with shattered pumpkins, their hollow eyes staring up at the sky as if in eternal torment. In the center of the field, they saw the scarecrow. The scarecrow was unlike any they had ever seen. It wore tattered clothes that seemed to be stitched together from scraps of fabric, and its head was a rotting pumpkin, its face contorted into a sinister grin. The scarecrow's arms were long and skeletal, and they dangled ominously at its sides. Sarah's friends exchanged nervous glances, but Sarah, determined to prove her courage, stepped closer to the scarecrow. "It's just a bunch of old superstitions," she said, her voice shaky. "I'll show you there's nothing to be afraid of." With those words, Sarah reached out and touched the scarecrow's tattered sleeve. The moment her fingers brushed against the fabric, a bone-chilling gust of wind swept through the patch, extinguishing their flashlights. Panic surged through the group as they fumbled to relight their lights. But when they finally managed, the scarecrow was gone. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she scanned the dark field. "This isn't funny. Guys," she called out, her voice quivering. But her friends were just as bewildered as she was. They had all seen the scarecrow disappear right before their eyes. The sense of dread grew stronger, and they decided it was time to leave. However, as they turned to go, they heard a low, haunting moan that seemed to come from all around them. The moan grew louder, and the ground beneath their feet trembled. Sarah and her friends froze, their eyes wide with terror as the earth itself seemed to come alive. From the ground, gnarled hands began to emerge, reaching for them with bony fingers. Panicked, they tried to run, but the grasping hands pulled them down one by one, dragging them into the cold, dark soil. Sarah watched in horror as her friends were swallowed by the earth. their screams silenced by the relentless grip of the pumpkin patch. As the last of her friends disappeared, Sarah turned to flee, but she was too late. The scarecrow had returned, its grinning pumpkin head inches from her face. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural, malevolent light as it reached out to her. With a final, blood-curdling scream, Sarah was pulled into the nightmarish world of the haunted pumpkin patch. The next morning, the townspeople awoke to find the pumpkin patch empty, the rusty gate hanging open. There was no sign of Sarah or her friends, and the patch itself seemed to have been transformed overnight. The pumpkins that had once been withered and decayed now gleamed with an eerie, unnatural light. The legend of the haunted pumpkin patch lived on, and the townspeople knew better than to venture near it. Every Halloween, they could hear the distant cawing of crows, as if the birds themselves were warning them to stay away from the cursed place. And in the dead of night, when the moon was hidden behind dark clouds, they could swear they heard the faintest echoes of Sarah's screams, carried on the wind.